And welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, March 24th, 2026, held in person and online. I note that quorum has been reached and I declare the meeting open. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live. While I will provide my opening remarks in English, you are welcome to address me in French or English, and I will respond in the language of your choice. If at any point you would like a response translated, simply raise your hand. Veuillez noter que cette séance est enregistrée et diffusée en direct. Bien que je fasse mes remarques d'ouverture en anglais, vous êtes invité à vous adresser à moi en français ou en anglais et je vous répondrai dans la langue de votre choix. Si à un moment donné, vous souhaitez qu'une réponse soit traduite, il vous suffira de lever la main. On Saturday, Hudson celebrated St. Patrick's Day the way this town does it best, with a parade, with color, with neighbors out on the street choosing to be together despite the cold and the snow underfoot. None of that happens without a lot of invisible work. I want to thank our staff, the Soulange Irish Society, the volunteers and the merchants along the route who showed up early and stayed late. What looks effortless from the sidewalk never is. On Wednesday, March 18th, our assistant town clerk signed the formal transfer of title of Sandy Beach to the town. For several people in the room and in this community, this represents the culmination of 2 decades of ardent activism, engagement, and determination. When asked how this feels, my only answer is overwhelming. In 2021, hearing how successive councils have given increasing and clear development rights to the land, I had lost the certainty that we could save it all. This is land that generations of Hudson residents have walked and cherished for many years and generations. Now it is formally and undeniably ours to be held in the public trust, protected in perpetual conservation. Interestingly, we are now finding ourselves before yet another significant decision. The owner of the private lot at Two Royal View at the far end of Sandy Beach has received an accepted purchase offer. As the town holds a registered right of first refusal on this lot, the right has been triggered and we have 60 days to match the accepted offer price of $1.3 million. We are currently conducting an internal assessment of the land's value, our financial capacity, and how this acquisition would affect our capital program and reserves. No decision has been made. We are handling this file with care and attention, doing the validations and assessment it deserves. The town has until May 1st of 2026 to decide. Council has asked that we take the next few weeks to assess and bring a final decision to our next council meeting on April 28th. This past Friday marked the opening of the 2-week candidate filing period for the by-election taking place on the first Sunday of May. I encourage anyone considering stepping forward to do so, as democracy thrives best when it is contrasted and remains deeply engaged, in keeping with Hudson's distinctive quality of place and community. This evening, I'm also pleased to recognize Karine McDonald, our Treasurer and Director of Finance, who recently earned the Certified Municipal Officer, so CMO designation, a rigorous professional credential that reflects both personal dedication and the depth of expertise we are fortunate to have at Town Hall. I also wish to highlight the quality work that takes place between meetings. Our ad hoc horticulture committee has been actively shaping how Hudson cares for its green spaces and seasonal plantings. Our economic development committee is equally in motion, preparing the groundwork for greater vibrancy in our streets and venues throughout the year, and not just in the warmer seasons, but in the winter as well. I'm grateful for the passion, commitment, and depth of knowledge that our residents, business owners, and nonprofit organizers bring to the table. We're fortunate again to have such a vibrant and participatory community. On tonight's agenda, as part of our ongoing capital program, under item 8.4, Council will be asked to award a contract for an external project manager to oversee the planning and construction of our municipal buildings following a public tender process. We will also be awarding contracts for the repair of the pedestrian bridge at Jack Layton Park, replacing decayed wood planks and beams on the western section, and for maintenance work at the community pool, including a permanent shading structure and a fresh coat of paint. Both will be completed before the season opens. Coming up, District 2 residents are invited to a neighborhood meeting this Monday, March 30th, here at Town Hall at 7 p.m. with Councillor Matt Stenberg. Coffee with the Mayor is next Saturday, March 28th, from 10 a.m. to noon at Halcrow Cottage, situated at 539 Main Road, and this agenda, where the agenda is set by residents in attendance. You're welcome to drop in, though please note that walk-ins are added to the end of the agenda. As with regards to community events this month and in April, Wednesday, March 25th, so tomorrow morning, is Seniors Movie Morning from 10 a.m. till noon here at the Community Center. This month's feature is Driving Miss Daisy. It is free for drop-in and always a good time to be had. On Friday this week, March 27th, is Teen Night. The theme is Glow-in-the-Dark Camp Games. On Saturday, April 4th, Easter, is Hudson's Easter Party from 9:30 to 1 p.m. with pony carousel rides, Easter egg hunts in 4 waves, where the Hudson Forest Play will be providing a workshop, and there will be a beaded workshop introduction with Yana Nichia. 2 sessions, 15 spots each. Registration is required. I would expect that sign-up will, or the list will fill in quickly, so please sign up early. In the morning, of course, on the 4th, we'll close with a grand chocolate draw at 12:45. So you can find more details and registration links on the town's website. And now moving on to this evening's agenda. So, item 1.1, adoption of the agenda. This resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of March 24th, 2026 be and is hereby adopted as submitted en français.
1.1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Cette résolution vise à ce que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 24 mars 2026 soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported to my left by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, confirmation of minutes. This resolution is that the minutes of the council meeting held on February 24th of 2026 be and are hereby approved as submitted en français.
2.1, adoption des procès-verbaux. Cette résolution vise à ce que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 24 février 2026 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So first question period is open, so I will alternate as usual between the room and online. There are 16 or 14 participants online and approximately 5 people in the room, so please come to the microphone if you have any questions. There's one hand up online. Jim Duff, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
I'm sure I saw you in the room just a few minutes ago.
It was me. I was getting the notes because I like to have the documentation in front of me. One of the things that came up at the February council meeting was a question from Jeff Gauthier, a Cameron Avenue resident, about an accident and about the town's plan to move forward on making its major arteries safer, specifically Cameron and St. Charles. You mentioned a macro mobility plan, and I really, really urge the council to take a harder look at this. This is a serious issue for our town. And I'm wondering, what is this mobility plan that you're talking about? How does it come about? Does it require more housekeeping, more governance? What are the steps required to make this a priority?
Thank you, Jim, for your question. This actually was on several of our campaign platforms, so it's a deliverable that we're looking to have in place. It came from some of the comments that we received during the Lakeview project, where as you'd heard as well, the question was, well, how is this connected to everything else and why this one first and not another one first? So also different comments and issues that were coming up at the circulation committee level where some, how do you say, speed abatement measures were put in place by the committee, but we're addressing situations that were happening, say, for example, on Bellevue, and then might carry off onto Main or in other areas. So in this way, this was a recommendation that came, I believe, from the Director of Public Works, who'd been speaking about it with the engineers, as he, sometimes before putting in speed bumps and other speed abatement measures, will have a study conducted by engineers. As you know, we did a security traffic study around Mount Pleasant. We also did another one at the top of Bellevue, if I remember correctly. And so what municipalities are starting to do is to do an overall assessment of the issues, and that when they apply a solution, they also understand how that will have an impact on adjacent neighborhoods and so on. So I'd like this plan to be a combination of not just speed abatement measures, but also our pedestrian main arteries. And we know that from comments we've received from District 4 area, on the Côte St. Charles and lower, sort of down the hill past the golf course, but also Fairhaven area, that as much as they would like to be able to walk into town, they don't feel that it is safe. Same with bicycling, where it might have been safe in the 80s for children to be bicycling back and forth to Simon's Farm. It's no longer really the case. So it is one of our priorities. It is up there, highlighted for 2026. I will be bringing the list of priorities to the public next month so that you can see how the orientations are set. Of course, these are likely to be adapted once we do a strategic planning exercise with the community as well, but it'll give you an idea on how we have structured our priorities to date and where these are headed. So I would expect, now that this sort of next hurdle that you'll see in the meeting this evening with regards to the project manager for the buildings, the next point that we would like to put in place, I would believe, is this master plan, and I'm looking at Vanessa Roach, our Director General, would be this master plan for mobility, as it also has impacts on our capital investments. I hope that's complete and gives you the material you were looking for.
Well, only until we get our path, our non-motorized path along Côte St. Charles, and as long as Cameron is, that could be solved very quickly. You know that.
I do know that, but I also hear council when they say that we need to be spreading our investments across the town and not only focusing on the core. So I believe that there's other infrastructure needs that are very salient, as you may have heard, with regards to the water supply on the west end. Those are issues as well that we would like to look at, which get prioritized first and where our capacity lies.
Understood.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are there any other questions? I see a person getting up at the microphone. Bonjour, Luc.
Oui, bonjour. Luc Dionne sur Birch Hill. Deux questions. Je regardais la liste des paiements dans le mois dernier et on a encore une fois un peu plus de 50 000 payés pour des firmes d'avocats, 4 montants. J'ai déjà soulevé que les frais d'avocat, je trouve que ça peut être des trous sans fin. Et ça m'inquiète de voir ça. Évidemment, on n'a pas de détails, je comprends. Mais je ne sais pas si vous pouvez nous donner quelques mots sur les dossiers qui sont en cours, vaguement.
Les frais d'avocat peuvent être liés à plusieurs éléments. Ça peut être parce qu'il y a une cause contre la ville, donc la ville est obligée de se défendre si jamais quelqu'un apporte une cause contre la ville. Nous avons aussi des avocats qui nous aident dans la préparation des dossiers. Donc, par exemple, de Royal View, on va poser des questions pour être bien certain de nos droits et de certaines clauses, par exemple. Donc, on va toujours s'associer d'avocats. La même chose pour l'élaboration de nos règlements, nos raffinements de règlements. Donc, ça peut être dans certains cas des cas qui sont liés à des litiges, mais ça peut aussi être dans le la perfection, le perfectionnement de nos outils de gouvernance. Donc, il y a différents cas. On peut aussi avoir des avocats qui sont liés. Par exemple, on est en négociation pour notre première entente collective. I forget how that is in French. La convention collective, merci. Donc, il y a des frais d'avocat parce que c'est un avocat qui nous conseille et qui nous accompagne dans ce dossier-là, je pense encore. Donc, probablement que c'est là que vous envoyez 4, mais il faut savoir que dans les années, oui, en effet, nos frais annuels, notre budget, si on veut, mais nos coûts liés aux dépenses en avocat a certainement croît, mais on demande aussi qu'il commence à y avoir, et on voit qu'il commence à y avoir aussi un allègement, si on veut, par rapport à ces choses-là. On les suit quand même assez régulièrement. Je dirais à peu près aux 4 mois, on va recevoir comme un projet, comment est-ce qu'on va dire, un portrait de la situation, à savoir quels sont les gros dossiers qui sont liés, s'il y a des opportunités pour faire les choses différemment.
Pouvez-vous nous donner une idée de la proportion sur les derniers 4, 5 ou 6 mois qui étaient reliés à des disputes, donc des citoyens ou la ville qui poursuit?
Je ne le saurais pas comme ça, mais je peux certainement en poser la question. Voir c'était quoi la proportion. On a aussi des dossiers qui sont en demande d'accès à l'information qui parfois vont demander un peu plus d'accompagnement que d'autres. Mais certainement, on va voir c'est quoi la proportion. Donc, des frais d'avocat qui sont liés soit au règlement, ou soit au litige ou à d'autres. Puis un pourcentage, pour moi, serait parfait.
Dernière question ou commentaire peut-être. J'ai déjà exprimé à certaines personnes du Conseil que je trouve que même si tout le monde est bien heureux qu'on procède à l'achat de Sandy Beach, personnellement, je trouve qu'on a payé trop cher. Et là, je vois pour une pièce de terrain additionnelle, 1,3 million sur le point de Jim Duff ou les gens sur Mont-Plaisant, près de l'école, qui attendent d'avoir des mesures de sécurité pour les enfants, ça me semble plus prioritaire que d'acheter un autre terrain.
Je vous inviterai à aller à l'endroit sur le site et vraiment comprendre le lot qui est là, quelle proportion de la plage il représente et si nous avons cette opportunité-là. Surtout, sachant que nous avons aussi pris la décision d'aller chercher la subvention de la CMM pour le 2 millions, ça nous donne possiblement un peu plus de latitude par rapport à ce choix-là, sans nécessairement augmenter la charge sur le dos des payeurs de taxes.
On parle quand même de presque 10 millions, plus un autre 1,3 million. C'est quand même l'argent des citoyens. Que ça vienne des taxes qu'on envoie à Montréal qui reviennent ou que ce soit des taxes des citoyens d'ici.
Donc, c'est 9,6 millions incluant taxes et frais. On avait été chercher le 2 millions de la CMM, donc ça le baisse. Donc, je pense que c'est important aussi d'aller chercher la subtilité dans ces chiffres-là et pas tout de suite arrondir à 10 parce qu'on ne se rend toujours pas à 10.
On va quand même installer des salles de bain ou on va être à 10 millions avant que
ça, on va pouvoir aller chercher d'autres subventions pour ces choses-là. Merci. Are there any questions online? There are none. I will then move on to the next item. Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment. Item 3.1, read.
SPAPE approval. Whereas that the requests were reviewed by the Town Planning Advisory Committee at the meetings held on February 3rd and March 3rd, 2026, this resolution is to approve the SPAPE for the following projects. 91 McNaughton, SPAPE accessory building, approved by majority. 62 Crescent, SPAPE addition, approved by majority. 400 Main, unanimous approval for a SPAPE addition. 637 Main, accessory building, unanimous approval. And 796 Main, unanimous approval for modification to the approved SPAPE.
3.1, approbation des PIA mars 2026. Considérant que les demandes ont été analysées par le CCU lors des rencontres du 3 février 2026 et du 3 mars 2026, cette résolution a pour but d'approuver le PIA relatif aux demandes suivantes. 91 McNaughton, PIA, bâtiment accessoire, approbation à la majorité. 62 Crescent, PIA, agrandissement, approbation à la majorité. 400 Main, PIA Agrandissement, approbation à l'unanimité. 637 Main, PIA Bâtiment accessoire, approbation à l'unanimité. 796 Main, modification au PIA approuvé, approbation à l'unanimité.
Merci. Do I have a proposer to my right? Bob Johnson, supported to my left by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, 87 Main, SPAPE addition.
Whereas a permit request was received for an addition at 87 Main, whereas bylaw number 571 concerning site planning and architectural integration programs, the SPAPE, indicates objectives and criteria to fulfill for this type of permit application, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation by majority to refuse the SPAPE in support of the permit request, whereas the following criteria are not met to preserve the architectural character of the buildings of interest, to ensure that architectural elements respect the architectural character of the building, and to ensure that exterior finished materials are in harmony with the architecture of the building and that their number be reduced to a minimum. This resolution is to refuse the SPAPE of the permit request for 87 Main.
3.2, 87 Main, PIA Agrandissement. Considérant qu'une demande de permis a été reçue pour un agrandissement au 87 Main, considérant que le règlement 571 sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale PIIA indique des objectifs et critères à respecter pour une demande de ce type, considérant la recommandation majoritaire du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis, considérant que les critères d'évaluation non remplis suivants, préserver le caractère architectural des bâtiments d'intérêt, assurer que les éléments architecturaux respectent le caractère architectural du bâtiment et assurer que les matériaux de revêtement extérieur cadrent avec l'architecture du bâtiment et que leurs nombres soient réduits au minimum. Cette résolution a pour but de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis au 87 Main.
Merci. Do we have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, renewal, Town Planning Advisory Committee. Reed.
Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee has been established, and whereas the duration of the mandate is fixed to 2 years and is renewable, whereas the mandate of Yuri Rodriguez, a citizen member, came to an end on March 1st, 2026, this resolution is to renew the mandate of Yuri Rodriguez as citizen member for a term of 2 years, beginning on March 1st, 2026.
3.3, renouvellement membre du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme CCU, considérant qu'un comité consultatif d'urbanisme a été constitué, considérant que le mandat des membres du CCU est fixé à 2 ans et est renouvelable, considérant que le mandat de Yuri Rodriguez à titre de membre citoyen a pris fin le 1er mars 2026. Cette résolution a pour but de renouveler le mandat de Yuri Rodriguez à titre de membre citoyen pour un terme de 2 ans qui débute le 1er mars 2026.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So thank you, Yuri, for putting your name up again for this post. I forget how long. Is it 2 terms already that he has done?
I think this is his second mandate.
And there is at least 1 seat that remains open, so there will be a call for candidates that will come out soon.
Very soon.
And it will go through the same process that our most recent committees have gone through, where there's a 2-week period for you to submit your candidacy by email. The email will be given on the town's website, but also through the weekly bulletin. And then the people who have applied will go through an interview process with Reed here to my left, and as well with Melissa Francis, who is our urban planning person in charge of TPAC. So all this to say that hopefully we will fill that seat by the end of April, since that is our next council meeting. Item 3.4, lots 1833771 and 1835083, application for authorization for alienation and use for a purpose other than agriculture. Whereas no one may, without the authorization of the Commission de protection du territoire agricole du Québec, use a lot for purposes other than agriculture, whereas the application for authorization submitted to the Commission must be accompanied by a recommendation for the local municipality in the form of a resolution of the Town Council, whereas the application seeks authorization for the alienation and residential use of part of lot 1833771 and of lot 1835083, representing a total area of 3,375 square meters, whereas this request complies with the urban planning regulations as to what is proposed, whereas the town of Hudson has taken into account the regional particularities, namely the agricultural context, the socio-economic context, the pressure on the agricultural zone, regional land use and development planning, as well as government policies and programs in its evaluation of this application. This resolution is to support the application for authorization for use other than agriculture seeking the alienation and residential use of part of lot 1833771 and of lot 1835083 of the Québec Cadastre submitted to the Commission de protection du territoire agricole du Québec.
Lot 1 833 771 et 1 835 083, demande d'autorisation pour aliénation et utilisation à une fin autre que l'agriculture. Considérant que nul ne peut, sans l'autorisation de la Commission de protection du territoire agricole du Québec, utiliser un lot à des fins autres que l'agriculture, considérant que la demande d'autorisation déposée à la Commission doit être accompagnée par une recommandation de la municipalité locale sous forme de résolution du Conseil municipal, considérant que la demande vise l'aliénation et une utilisation à des fins résidentielles sur une partie du lot 1 833 771 et sur le lot 1 835 083, soit une superficie de 3 375 mètres carrés, considérant que la présente demande est conforme au règlement d'urbanisme quant à ce qui est proposé, considérant que la Ville d'Hudson a considéré les particularités régionales, soit le contexte agricole, le contexte socio-économique, la pression sur la zone agricole, la planification régionale en aménagement et développement du territoire et les politiques et programmes gouvernementaux dans l'évaluation de cette demande. Cette résolution vise à appuyer la demande d'autorisation pour l'utilisation à une fin autre que l'agriculture, visant l'aliénation et une utilisation à des fins résidentielles sur une partie du lot 1 833 771 et sur le lot 1 835 083 du Cadastre du Québec, adressé à la Commission de protection du territoire agricole du Québec.
Merci, René. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson, supported to my left by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. This resolution actually generated some conversation around the table, which is why I was looking to my left. And thank you, Mark. It's not so much lucky. I just, not all resolutions are easy, and we certainly understood where your concerns lay, and it's with regards to looking to protect as much of our canopy and our woodlands as possible. So this is a bigger lot that is asking for a subdivision into 2 lots in order to build a house on the second lot. And this is in an area of District 1 where there are houses all around. So this is actually quite a common situation in the Como area. So we did have a good and I think good conversation on that. So thank you, Mark, for bringing up your concerns and the questions. Item 3.5, tabling of monthly reports for permits issued February 2026. Members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly reports for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department, en français.
3.5 Dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis, février 2026. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt des rapports mensuels des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Section 4, Administration and Finance. Item 4.1, Approval of Disbursements for March of 2026. This resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of March 13th, 2026, as presented, with a subtotal of $1,068,887.76, with two payrolls. Payroll number 4 at $150,526.41, and payroll 5 at $156,874, for a total of accounts paid of $1,376,288.17.
4.1 Approbation des paiements mars 2026. Cette résolution a pour but d'approuver le paiement des comptes au 13 mars 2026 tel que présenté pour un sous-total des paiements d'1 068 887,76 sous avec deux périodes de paye. La première période de paye numéro 4, 150 526,41 sous. La deuxième période de paye, 156 874 $ pour un total des comptes à payer de 1 376 288,17 sous.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover to my left? Mark Gray, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. There are no items in Section 5, Town Clerk. I think René Huneau is quite busy with the by-election, serving as présidente des élections, c'est ça? Or directrice des élections? Présidente des élections. So Section 6, Human Resources, Item 6.1, March 2026, List of Personal Movements. That's personnel and not personnel. Movements, unionized staff hires and departures. This is for tabling. Members of Council, take note of the tabling of March 2026 list of personnel, movements, unionized staff hires and departures. En français.
6.1 Dépôt, liste de mouvements de personnel, embauche et départ du personnel syndiqué mars 2026. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt de la liste de mouvements de personnel, embauche et départ du personnel syndiqué mars 2026.
Merci. Item 6.2, authorization to sign the letter of agreement regarding the granting of a temporary replacement premium in the Public Works Department. Whereas the town must ensure the proper management of its resources, requiring special agreements with the union for the appointment of an interim foreman. Whereas the collective agreement does not provide for a bonus linked to the addition of responsibilities. This resolution is to ratify the letter of agreement number 8, 2026-01, reached between the parties, that these be made without any admission whatsoever on the part of the parties and may not be used as a precedent, and that the letter of agreement shall take effect retroactively as of the date of the agreement.
6.2 Autorisation de signature pour la lettre d'entente, octroi d'une prime pour remplacement temporaire au service des travaux publics. Considérant que la Ville doit assurer une bonne gestion de ses ressources, nécessitant des ententes particulières auprès du syndicat pour la nomination dans une fonction de contremaître par intérim, considérant que la convention collective ne prévoit pas de prime liée à l'ajout de responsabilité, cette résolution a pour but d'entériner la lettre d'entente numéro 8 2026-01 intervenue entre les parties, que celle-ci soit faite sans admission quelconque de la part des parties et ne pourra être utilisée à titre de précédent, que la lettre d'entente entre en vigueur rétroactivement à la date de l'entente.
Merci. Do I have an approver to my left? It is Mark Gray, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any disagreements with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So you saw several hands come up as we very much appreciate the staff that is stepping up partially, or how do we say, for a fixed period of time, or just until this foreman's position. He was away on sick leave, unfortunately. So just filling in from within, and we appreciate the person who's taken that on. 6.3, employee probation, March 2026, whereas the list de mouvement de main-d'œuvre du mois d'octobre 2025, confirming the hiring of employee 1075 as an accounting technician for the town of Hudson, whereas the probation period for employee 1075 ended on March 22nd of 2026. This resolution is to grant employee 1075 permanent status as of March 22nd, 2026 in the position of accounting technician. En français.
6.3, probation employé mars 2026. Considérant la liste de mouvements de main-d'œuvre du mois d'octobre 2025, confirmant l'embauche de l'employé 1075 au poste de technicienne en comptabilité pour la Ville d'Hudson, considérant que la période de probation de l'employé 1075 s'est terminée le 22 mars 2026, cette résolution vise à octroyer la permanence de l'employé 1075 en date du 22 mars 2026 dans une fonction de technicienne en comptabilité.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported to my left by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So congratulations and welcome to this person who's joining permanently the accounting team. She was evaluated by her director and came out with very favorable remarks, and we look forward to continuing with this person. Section 7, Culture and Recreation. 7.1, I will recuse myself from the table.
All right, good evening, everybody. 7.1, grant to the Hawkesbury Hospital and to the Maison Libella Foundation 2026. Mayor Chloe Hutchison has an interest in the matter and issue and must recuse herself from this resolution at 7:35 p.m. Whereas Council has evaluated the request for financial support from the Hawkesbury Hospital as per the policy for recognition and support of nonprofit organizations, whereas Council has evaluated the request for financial support from the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Palliative Care Home Foundation as per the policy for recognition and support of nonprofit organizations. This resolution is to adopt the following financial contribution and to confirm this information by letter to the Hawkesbury Hospital and to Maison Libella as soon as possible following the adoption of this resolution. The organization Hawkesbury Hospital Foundation, $5,000, and the organization Maison Libella, $5,000. En français.
7.1, octroi d'une subvention à l'hôpital d'Hawkesbury et à la Fondation Maison Libella 2026. La mairesse Chloé Hutchison a un intérêt dans la question et elle doit se récuser de la présente résolution à 19h35. Considérant que le Conseil a évalué la demande d'appui financier de l'hôpital d'Hawkesbury en lien avec la politique de reconnaissance et de soutien des organismes, considérant que le Conseil a évalué la demande d'appui financière de la Maison Libella en lien avec la politique de reconnaissance et de soutien des organismes, cette résolution a pour but d'adopter la contribution financière qui suit et d'en confirmer la teneur par lettre à l'hôpital d'Hawkesbury ainsi qu'à la Fondation de la Maison Libella dans les meilleurs délais après l'adoption des présentes. L'organisme Fondation de l'hôpital Hawkesbury aura un montant de 5 000 $ et la Fondation de la Maison Libella un montant de 5 000 $.
Do we have a mover? Matthew Stenberg, seconded by Reed Thompson. Is there anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. Please let the record show that Mayor Hutchison returns to her seat at 7:37 p.m.
Thank you, Darren. I sit on the board of directors of the palliative care home, now called Maison Libella, which is why generally when this resolution comes to our table, I'll step out of the discussions in caucus and also away from the decisional table. Item 7.2, authorization to allocate surplus funds to the Cambridge Park pre-planning project, whereas the replacement of the playground equipment and the improvement of Cambridge Park are a priority for the council. Whereas to that end, BC2 has been mandated to prepare the conceptual site plan by providing the following deliverables: to create and administer an online survey targeting neighborhood residents and other stakeholders, preparation of the conceptual plan and feedback survey and final refinements. This resolution is to approve the use of $12,850 from the designated surplus parks and playgrounds for the contract awarded to BC2 and to approve the use of $1,500 from the designated surplus parks and Playgrounds to cover the cost of printing and distributing information regarding the survey to residents of the Alstonvale and Hudson Valleys neighborhood.
7.2, autorisation d'affecter le surplus affecté à la pré-planification du parc Cambridge. Considérant que le remplacement de la structure de jeu et l'amélioration du parc Cambridge constituent une priorité du Conseil, considérant qu'à cette fin, BC2 a été mandaté pour préparer le plan conceptuel du site et fournir les livrables suivants. La création et l'administration d'un sondage en ligne ciblant les résidents du quartier et les autres parties prenantes, la préparation du plan conceptuel et le sondage de rétroaction et ajustements finaux. Cette résolution a pour but d'approuver l'utilisation d'un montant de 12 850 $ du surplus affecté parcs et terrains de jeu pour le mandat octroyé à BC2 et d'approuver l'utilisation d'un montant de 1 500 $ du surplus affecté parcs et terrains de jeu pour couvrir les frais d'impression et de distribution des informations relatives au sondage auprès des résidents des quartiers Alstonville et Hudson Valley.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So we'll have a little bit more to offer at the next council meeting with regards to the schedule and process on this project. As mentioned in the resolution, there will be a survey going out online, and the reason for the printouts is that there will be mail hangers that will be left on the doors in the Alstonvale and Hudson Valley, areas, just to make sure that they're aware of this survey. I took a look at this survey today. It's very complete. It has a lot of very interesting material there, so it's not just the look and feel, but it's also questioning about whether neighbors feel that the sound of the pickleball may become an issue, so it's to test the acceptability and what to them matters, whether it's more of a natural setting or more of an urban setting, and also the types of plantings. So there's actually quite a bit of material there. I think it'll be worth filling and looking into, whether you live in that area or you're interested in pickleball or just interested in parks in general. But I do invite you to keep an eye out for this. It's expected to go out in April. Item 8.1, awarding of contract AO-2026-03-TP, repair of section of the pedestrian bridge located in Jack Layton Park. Mark, do you feel like reading?
Yeah, you bet. Whereas the wood decking on the footbridge has deteriorated to a condition that warrants replacement, whereas the public call for tenders AO 2026-03-TP was issued on January 29th, 2026 and published by SEO, whereas only one bid was received and opened publicly on March 12th, 2026. The price is $65,000. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution proposes to award to Les Entreprises Pera, lowest conforming bidder, the contract for the repair of a section of the pedestrian bridge located in Jack Layton Park for an amount of $65,000 before taxes, that this expenditure be funded from designated surplus parks and playground.
8.1, octroi de contrat, appel d'offres 2026-03-TP, réparation d'une section du pont piétonnier situé au parc Jack Layton. Considérant que le revêtement en bois de la passerelle s'est détérioré à un point tel qu'elle doit être remplacée, considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2026-03-TP a été lancé le 29 janvier 2026 et publié sur SEAO, considérant qu'une seule soumission a été reçue et ouverte publiquement le 12 mars 2026 par les entreprises PERA, considérant l'analyse de conformité des soumissions, cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à les entreprises PERA, plus bas soumissionnaires conformes, le contrat de réparation d'une section du pont piétonnier situé au parc Jack Layton pour un montant de 65 000 $ avant taxe, que cette dépense financée par le surplus affecté parc et terrain de jeu.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So just to reiterate, this is for the western portions, so from, say, the Jack Layton side to and including that central sort of lookout point on the footbridge. This is to replace rotten planks and boards, but also some of the beams that are underneath. We have been looking at replacing the entire footbridge, but due to its geography and the span, and also the fact that it sits within wetlands, but also within the water, it is not a straightforward or a very cheap endeavor. For now, the best seems to be just upkeeping the wood, and it's certainly, again, one of those conversations that we regularly have with our Director General at the table. And something else came up to my mind, but I'll skip on that one. That's all right. Anyway, just to say that the repairs are scheduled to take place before the opening of the summer season. Item 8.2, Reid, do you feel like reading this one?
I'd love to. Whereas the municipal concrete pool has deteriorated due to age, usage, and environmental exposure, whereas the public call for tenders AO 2026-04 TP was issued on February 11th, 2026 and published on SEAO. Whereas the following bids were received: Construction Duradev Inc. for $238,750, Simota Inc. $298,360, and Construction B. Martel Inc. for $553,000, $398. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to award to Construction Duradev Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for the renovation work on the outdoor pool in the town of Hudson for the amount of $238,750 before taxes, and that this expenditure be financed by a loan from the Working Capital Fund for a 5-year term.
8.2, octroi de contrat AO 2026-04-TP, travaux de réfection de la piscine extérieure de la ville d'Hudson. Considérant que la piscine municipale en béton s'est détériorée en raison de son âge, de son utilisation et de son exposition aux conditions environnementales, considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2026-04-TP a été lancé le 11 février 2026 et publié sur SEAO, considérant que les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues: Construction Duradev Inc. pour $238 750, Simota Inc. pour $298 360 et Construction B. Martel Inc. pour $553 398, excusez. Considérant l'analyse de conformité des soumissions, cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à Construction Duradev Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat pour des travaux de réfection de la piscine extérieure de la ville d'Hudson pour un montant de $238 750 avant taxe et que cette dépense soit financée pour un emprunt au fonds de roulement pour un terme de 5 ans.
Merci beaucoup. Do we have a mover to my left? Mark Gray, supported to my right by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. With regards to 8.3, awarding of contract AO 2026-05 TP water-based marking, street lines, parking lots, and spot marking, whereas the marking of street lines is necessary to clearly define traffic lanes and road boundaries, whereas the public call for tenders AO-2026-05 TP was issued on February 4th of 2026 and published on SEAO, whereas the following bids were received, and there were 8 of them. Entreprise Techline Inc., $26,315.25. Marquage Signalisation Rive-Sud BA Inc., $27,045. Ligne Rive-Sud Inc., $27,697.50. Ligne Masca 9254-8783 Quebec Inc., $29,030.75. Les signalisations RC Inc., $30,343. Marquage et traçage du Québec Inc., $34,662.50. Duroligne Inc., $35,964. Solution Marquage 9181-5084 Quebec Inc. at $39,960. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to award to Entreprise Techline Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for water-based marking, street lines, parking lots, and spot marking for an amount of $26,315.25 before taxes, and that this contract is renewable for 2 additional periods of 1 year each if required.
8.3, octroi de contrat AO 2026-05-TP, marquage à base d'eau, ligne de rue, stationnement et ponctuel. Considérant que le marquage des lignes de rue est nécessaire pour définir clairement les voies de circulation et les limites de la chaussée, considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2026-05-TP a été lancé le 4 février 2026 et publié sur SEAO, considérant que les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues: Entreprise Techline Inc. pour 26 315,25 sous, marquage signalisation Rive-Sud BA Inc. pour 27 045 ligne Rive-Sud Inc. pour 27 697,50 sous, ligne Masca 9254-8783 Québec Inc. pour 29 030,75 sous, les signalisations RC Inc. pour 30 343 marquage et traçage du Québec pour 34 662,50 sous, Duroligne Inc. pour 35 964 et Solution Marquage 9181-5084 Québec Inc. pour 39 960 Considérant l'analyse de conformité des soumissions, cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à Entreprise Techline Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de marquage à base d'eau, ligne de rue, stationnement et ponctuel pour un montant de 26 315,25 avant taxe et que le présent contrat est renouvelable pour 2 périodes additionnelles d'1 an chacune au besoin.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.4, and I'm reading from the insert. Awarding of contract AO 2026-12-TP Professional Services Project Manager for Public Building Construction. Whereas the municipality is proceeding with the planning, construction, and renovation of new and existing municipal buildings. Whereas the scope, complexity, and financial value of the projects require dedicated oversight and coordination. Whereas mandating a qualified project manager will ensure effective planning, cost control, schedule adherence, risk management, and quality assurance throughout all phases of the project. Whereas the mandate includes cost planning and control, coordination of project consultants, schedule monitoring, and reporting to administration and council. Whereas the contract is structured on a bank of hours basis with monthly billing based on actual services rendered, providing the municipality with flexibility to adapt the project needs and evolution. Whereas the tender sought pricing for a 3-year period from 2026 to 2028. Whereas the tender documents provided for a bid weighting and evaluation system, with the compliant bidder being the one receiving the highest final scoring according to the prescribed formula, and whereas the following compliant companies submitted bids and received the following scores. The companies that submitted their bids are Coex Gestion de Projet Inc. with a final score of 84.75% and ranked first, GBE Expert Conseil Inc. with a final score of 73.5%, ranked second, and Csur with a final score of 73.25% with a rank of third. Whereas the bid submitted by COEX Gestion de Projet Inc. received the highest score, this resolution is to award to COEX Gestion de Projet Inc., the compliant bidder having obtained the highest score, the contract for professional services project manager for public building construction for an amount of $589,916.36 before taxes. The AO-2026-12-TP documents, the bid and the present resolution shall form an integral part of the agreement, and that the project manager provide periodic reporting to administration and council at key project milestones, and that this expenditure be funded from the allocated surplus for buildings. En français.
8.4, octroi de contrat AO 2026-12-TP, service professionnel, gestionnaire de projet pour la construction de bâtiments publics. Considérant que la municipalité procède à la planification, à la construction et à la rénovation de nouveaux bâtiments municipaux ainsi que de bâtiments existants, considérant que la portée, la complexité et la valeur financière des projets nécessitent une supervision et une coordination dédiées, considérant que le mandat d'un gestionnaire de projet qualifié permettra d'assurer une planification efficace, le contrôle des coûts, le respect des échéanciers, la gestion des risques et l'assurance qualité tout au long des différentes phases des projets, considérant que le mandat comprend notamment la planification et le contrôle des coûts, la coordination des professionnels, le suivi des échéanciers ainsi que la reddition de comptes à l'administration et au Conseil, considérant que le contrat est structuré sur une base de banque d'heures avec une facturation mensuelle selon les services réellement rendus, offrant à la Ville la flexibilité nécessaire selon l'évolution des projets, considérant que la valeur globale des investissements en immobilisation associés à ces projets sera précisée et présentée au Conseil au fur et à mesure de l'avancement des différentes phases, considérant que l'octroi de ce contrat doit se faire au terme d'un processus d'appel d'offres, considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2026-12-TP a été lancé le 26 février 2026 et publié sur SEAO, considérant que l'appel d'offres visant l'obtention de prix pour une période de 3 ans, 2026 à 2028, considérant que les soumissions ont été ouvertes publiquement le 18 mars 2026, considérant que les documents d'appel d'offres prévoyaient un système de pondération et d'évaluation des soumissions, le soumissionnaire conforme étant celui ayant obtenu la note finale la plus élevée selon la formule prescrite. Considérant que les entreprises conformes suivantes ont soumis une offre et ont obtenu les pointages suivants. Entreprises ayant soumissionné COEX Gestion de projet avec un pointage de 84,75 % au premier rang, GBI Expert Conseil Inc. avec un pointage de 73,5 % au deuxième rang et Csur avec un pointage de 73,25 % au troisième rang. Considérant que l'offre soumise par COEX Gestion de projet Inc. a obtenu le pointage le plus élevé, cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à COEX Gestion de projet Inc., soumissionnaire conforme ayant obtenu le pointage le plus élevé, le contrat de service professionnel gestionnaire de projet pour la construction de bâtiments publics pour un montant de 589 916,36 sous avant taxes. Les documents d'appel d'offres AO 2026-12-TP, la soumission et la présente résolution font partie intégrante du contrat liant les parties. Que le gestionnaire de projet assure une reddition de comptes périodique à l'administration et au Conseil aux étapes clés des projets et que ces dépenses soient financées à même le surplus affecté bâtiment.
Merci.
Point of clarification, please. The final price tag of $589,916, is that the maximum amount that we can expect to pay on this, but it could also be reduced? And also, if we could get an idea of the number of hours that are in the bank that this amount gets us?
It is a maximum amount, and at the moment, there is no number of hours because to be determined as we move on further. So I could look into it with Ian, but at the moment, I don't have banked hours, the number of banked hours considered, but there's a maximum amount that's allocated.
Okay.
It's a team, right? So not every person in the team has the same number of hours. We will receive further details on this as we move forward. I think it was important for us at this point, considering that our buildings require substantial attention on our part, and we're also looking to do capital investments with roads and also provide decent operations. It was a strategy that we felt would deliver the most results in the shortest time and make best use of the reserves that we've been putting aside for our capital projects. So you will hear more about this as we move forward, and thank you for getting us this far, Vanessa.
Le vote.
Yes, so I see a hand over there. Darren Legault proposes, supported by Mark Gray. Is that it? Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.5, payment authorization for Lower Maple Pump Station Repair, Nord-MEC. Whereas proper operation and regular maintenance of the sewage pumping station are necessary to protect public health and prevent environmental pollution and avoid sewage overflow and flooding, this resolution is to approve the payment to or for the amount of $41,511.56 before tax to Nord-MEC. In French.
8.5, autorisation de paiement, réparation, station de pompage Lower Maple, Nord-MEC. Considérant que pour le bon fonctionnement et l'entretien régulier de la station de pompage, des eaux usées sont nécessaires pour protéger la santé publique, prévenir la pollution de l'environnement et éviter les débordements d'égouts et les inondations, cette résolution vise d'approuver le paiement d'un montant de 41 511,56 avant taxe à Nord-MEC.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 9.1, 2025 Annual Activity Report for the MRCVS Fire Safety Cover Plan activities. Whereas the obligation for the local authority responsible for the implementation of the measures stipulated in the Fire Safety Plan to forward to the Minister of Public Security within 3 months of the end of its fiscal year a report of activities for the previous fiscal year and its plans for the new year. This resolution is to acknowledge the 2025 annual report of the Fire Safety Cover Plan and to authorize the submission of the 2025 annual activity report to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Regional County Municipality, so the MRC, so that it can be transmitted to the Minister of Public Security.
9.1, rapport annuel d'activité 2025 du schéma de couverture de risque de la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Considérant l'obligation pour toute autorité légale chargée de l'application des mesures prévues au schéma de couverture de risque en matière de sécurité incendie de transmettre au ministre de la Sécurité publique dans les 3 mois de la fin de son année financière un rapport d'activité pour l'exercice précédent et ses projets pour la nouvelle année. Cette résolution a pour but de prendre acte du rapport annuel 2025 de schéma de couverture de risque en matière de sécurité incendie et d'autoriser la transmission du rapport annuel d'activité 2025 à la municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges afin qu'elle le transmette au ministre de la Sécurité publique.
Merci. To my left, Darren Legault, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. I think I'm skipping some points. Section 10. Item 10.1, Bylaw 779.1-2026, amending Bylaw 779-2025 concerning security, peace, and good order, RMH-460, notice of motion and tabling. I will need a councillor to my right to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 779.1-2026, amending bylaw 779-2025 concerning security, peace, and good order, RMH-460, and tables the draft. So Matt Stenberg gives notice, and the bylaw aims to ensure security, peace, and order within the town of Hudson through a regionally harmonized municipal bylaw to ensure its enforcement by the Sûreté du Québec. En français.
10.1, avis de motion et dépôt, règlement 779.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 779-2025 concernant la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre RMH 460. Le conseiller Matthew Stenberg donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 779.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 779-2025 concernant la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre, RMH 460, et en dépose le projet. Le règlement vise à assurer la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre sur le territoire de la Ville d'Hudson via un règlement municipal harmonisé à l'échelle régionale afin d'en assurer l'application par la Sûreté du Québec.
Merci. So these RMHs, they're harmonized bylaws that all municipalities adopt so that the SQ can apply them evenly across all municipalities. The municipalities that opt to tweak them or to personalize them, then basically the SQ knows that in those municipalities the rules are different. They don't always know or know exactly what is different, so they have a tendency to sort of back off from applying those bylaws in those municipalities. It is just good practice to be adopting these. There is a committee at the regional level composed of town clerks and of security personnel and also the SQ who review the recommendations of the SQ in different municipalities to update these municipal bylaws on a regular basis. So this is the fruit of the labor of this committee, and every so often they come to us. I believe that this bylaw had already been in effect, or the RMH already been in effect since, and if my memory serves me correctly, since 2019. So it's not a new bylaw for us. It hasn't caused us any problems, and from memory, what they are asking to improve is graffiti mention and overview, but also with regards to any overt sign having any overtly sexual content or display directed to public domain. So this has raised a lot of conversation in some municipalities in our region. I haven't heard much about it here, except that some people were concerned that it would be an infringement on privacy or private use of their lots. It doesn't. Again, it's just to harmonize and to bring up to date our harmonized bylaws. Item 10.2, Notice of Motion Tabling of Draft Bylaw 781-2026, Code of Ethics and Good Conduct for Elected Municipal Officers of the Town of Hudson. I will need a councillor to my left to give notice of motion, so Reed Thompson, that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of Bylaw 781-2026, Code of Ethics and Good Conduct for Elected Municipal Officers of the Town of Hudson, and tables the draft. The bylaw is intended to set forth the municipality's core ethical values and the ethical guidelines that must govern the conduct of any person serving as a member of the municipal council, a committee, or a commission of the municipality, or in their capacity as a member of the municipal council or another organization.
10.2, avis de motion et dépôt du projet, règlement 781-2026, Code d'éthique et de déontologie des élus et élus municipaux de la Ville d'Hudson. Le conseiller Reed Thompson donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 781-2026, Code d'éthique et de déontologie des élus et élus municipaux de la Ville d'Hudson, et en dépose le projet. Le règlement vise à prévoir les principales valeurs de la municipalité en matière d'éthique et les règles déontologiques qui doivent guider la conduite d'une personne à titre de membre du Conseil, d'un comité ou d'une commission de la municipalité, ou en sa qualité de membre du Conseil de la municipalité ou d'un autre organisme.
Merci. So this is typical. Every term, we have to readopt this bylaw for Code of Ethics and Good Conduct. It gets updated by the government on a regular basis. And in our case, all municipalities have the opportunity to adjust the values and conduct ethics, I think, that are there's like the standard, the baseline, and then we can add some. In our case, we opted for the full version, la Cadillac, je l'appelais, so that we are reminded, and we can also share that with our committee members as well, so that they're aware that we have a certain code of conduct to respect, and that there's a baseline from which we all must behave with public information, but also private information and towards each other. Did you have a question? So it was Reed who, when I went left, he gave me his name, so I read it in. But next month we will be adopting the full version. So if you remind me, I'll make sure that it is proposed by you. So that was for that item. And the last one, I believe, is for 10.3, Bylaw 770.1-2026, amending Bylaw 770-2024 on the use of Sandy Beach Nature Park and Beach. This is for adoption. We had brought this to the table in January and had to hold it back as it took a little bit longer than we had anticipated for the signature of the land deeds for Sandy Beach. So as the land deeds were signed by René Huneau at the table to our right, on the 18th of March, it is now official. Sandy Beach is ours, and thereby we can modify or update the bylaw and adopt it this evening. So whereas a notice of motion of this bylaw was given on the regular meeting of the Town Council held on January 27th of 2026, whereas there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on January 27th, 2026, this resolution is to adopt bylaw 770-2026, amending bylaw 770-2024 on the use of Sandy Beach Nature Park and Beach. En français.
10.3, adoption règlement 770.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 770-2024 sur l'utilisation du parc nature et de la plage Sandy Beach. Considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 27 janvier 2026, considérant que le présent règlement ne comporte aucune modification au projet déposé le 27 janvier 2026, cette résolution a pour but d'adopter le règlement 770.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 770-2024 sur l'utilisation du parc nature et de la plage Sandy Beach.
Mover to my left, Mark Gray, supported to my right by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. So the beach is now officially open, not that it wasn't before, but we are lifting essentially, yes, the resolution, and parking is now allowed as it had been in the past. And today was the first meeting of the project committee, and so that conservation and management plan has started. There also will be a survey coming out I would say within a month and a half or so is the feeling I'm getting from that meeting. But we gave the timeline last time we met in January at the public presentation for the CMM subsidy, and that presentation can be found online under the Sandy Beach sort of project tab. And that timeline still holds, and we will give you regular updates on that as we proceed. With regards to the item on new business, section 12, question last month, I believe, was with regards to the change in protocols for 911 calls. So, of course, this raised some interest within the room and beyond, and I was quickly called to to order of some sort, but so the MRC reminded me that they are not in charge of that protocol, which of course I know, and I don't think that that's what I said. But meanwhile, I have asked that they look further into this and come back to us with a public response. What I can say so far is that yes, the protocol for dispatching has changed. Even the MRCs were not made aware. And when I spoke about this with the prefect last month, he said he'd asked his own internal security, firemen and first responders, and they said indeed there had been less calls than in the past, but they hadn't known why, and now they suspect why. So the préfet will bring this at the FQM level, which is a higher provincial level, to see if other municipalities and other regions are undergoing the same situation. The concern, of course, for us is in the delay with not knowing what goes to where or if there's any gaps in the system. It's for members of the public that are used to a certain level of service and now not receiving this level of service. Have they been made aware, and are there any gaps or any risks? So before we can answer more formally than that, it's to say they have been made aware. It's taken a little while for that to catch on, and we are following that at the regional level. So that's the best I can give at this point, without getting into too much trouble, but that is actually all I have to offer on the topic. So that is it for me. Was there any other new business that anyone else wanted to bring? No, we're good. So with this, we will move on to, I believe it is the second question period. So as before, we will alternate between the room and online. So please raise your hand if you have a question. I see there are 2 hands up online and no one in the room. So Jim Duff, please go ahead, unless that's an old hand.
No, it's an old hand, yes, but I just put it up. The question that I have concerns the minutes of the February 24th meeting, which were tabled tonight and approved tonight, but I haven't been able to see them yet. So I'm going on the assumption that what I took orally from the council meeting of February the 24th from the video is in fact. So the February 24th minutes concern the request to the CMM for the $2 million subsidy that the town approved. And I believe, according to Mark Gray, who proposed the motion, that it represents all 7 of the lots that the town is buying from the Canco. 3 of those are the ones that are described here in the section 1 of bylaw 770, which you've just approved. Sandy Beach Nature Park, the area constituted by lots 3080, 946, 3080, 948, and 6359848. But the other 4 lots, I think we all know that they're roads, mostly beach road, and buffer zones and so on. But they would be part of the CMM's levy. In other words, they would be covered by the $2 million. That's my understanding. So there would be no special parking for Hudson residents. There would be no special anything for Hudson residents. Anything that is available to Hudson residents has to be available to all 4.4 million residents of the Montreal metropolitan community. Am I correct?
You are correct, as it is now.
So what changes?
It is as we know it now, except we have a subsidy of $2 million for conservation.
So conservation, as I understood it from the Monsieur Néron, I think it was, that came from the CMM at
Nicolas Milot?
Yes, and he made the point that it didn't matter what it was applied to, whether it was conservation, if it was money from the CMM, and any dollar of that money was used for anything in the project, that meant that the CMM mandate applied.
So the request is, in that subsidy, was for the acquisition of Sandy Beach area. And it doesn't give the authority to the CMM to do as they want on town property. It is just them supporting the acquisition of this area that has ecological value, because they had to assess that. And it was deemed by their selection committee that it did indeed meet their criteria for conservation acquisition.
Let's flip that around. My understanding from what you're saying is that our hands are tied as well.
No, they're not.
So we have absolute carte blanche to do whatever we want with the site regardless of the CMM's $2 million.
As long as whatever restriction we place for access to that site must be the same restriction as we would place to anyone from the CMM.
Okay? Okay, and that is going to be thrashed out in more clarity for the average person that
So that is what the conservation and management plan process is about, Jim. It's where we will define what is best for the ecological survival and thriving of that lot. And whatever, if we need to start restricting access to some areas because they're more sensitive than others, or maybe there's going to be some times of the year where, I don't know, say drought or flooding may mean that we have to close off an area. It means that if we close it off to everyone the same.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I'll keep listening, I'll keep watching.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I do have a question about the 589 from COEX for the...
Do you want to ask it now and then I'll move to the next hand?
Yeah, if I can.
Yes.
I'm used to the town hiring somebody for a specific project like we did with the sewers and the waterworks upgrade and the sewage treatment plant. So this is a multi-phased thing that there's no description of what the buildings are, I would think, city, town hall, public works, maybe a new public works building, and so on. But there's nothing in any of this that tells me what this money is going to be spent on. So I'm curious about that.
Right. So when we started this venture in January, it was for the construction of a new public works building along, I think it's Wharf, if that's the right street, on Wharf Street and Wharf Road, sorry, and for the construction of a new town hall where the public works is situated now. And through discussion in the last, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks, while this tender was out, we've been looking at the timeline of both of those buildings and feeling that it's tight for both of those buildings, especially considering the level of acceptability that I'd like to go and get for Town Hall. We do still have the Fire Hall in our vivid and recent memory. So we are moving ahead with the same timeline for the public works. So that means the demolition of the public works where it is now and the reconstruction on Wharf Road. What it looks like will be determined because we're not there yet. We're really at the pre-conceptual level. But I did want this entire project to be managed with someone who's going to be focused on getting the grants and on making sure that we stick to our timelines and to our budget and get the best project for value. But we need to move forward on the town hall and not put that aside indefinitely. So now this becomes a project that we will be developing in part during this term, but that will be finalized during the next term, will be completed and built during the next term in order to avoid having a project that is rushed to be completed within this term. I didn't really want to live through another Lakeview sort of compression in timeline where you're struggling with acceptability. There might be a slide in the timeline or in the schedule. And I really want to make sure that this is a project that fits the town, fits the needs of the town moving forward, but also meets a certain level of acceptability from the public. As you know, we have other buildings, including this one, the Legion a 64-seater town hall existing, which we probably would keep for a different use once the new town hall is built. So in having basically a person whose expertise and can solely concentrate on this felt to us as the best investment at this time, considering that our next biggest hump is really our municipal buildings.
Right, okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome. There's one more hand up, so Carol Ann Mills, please go ahead.
Good evening. My question is just with regards to the contract that was given for the bridge at Jack Layton Park. Again, it's just a request that the minutes reflect that it was the sole bidder that was awarded the contract and not the lowest conforming. Again, just so that in future, if someone is looking at contracts and how they've been awarded and how we've done, we really should be honest in showing that it's only been one bid that's come in. I'm curious to know if the successful bidder is in fact the company that had done the work just recently, and if it is not, if they were on the bid list, did not bid, and if we questioned why they did not bid. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the part that I was trying to remember when I was looking at Reed going, I had something on my mind. And I'm only going to remember part of that and I'll let Vanessa complete for me. It was my understanding that there were 4 interested bidders, including the one that had done the work last year, and that in the end, unfortunately, even though several had asked questions and asked for the bid package, only one submitted a bid. And when we say lowest conforming bid, it's because in order to accept a bid, it must be conforming. So you're right, it's the only conforming bid rather than the lowest conforming bid, but that's still the standard term. But Vanessa, did you want to complete?
You did read, though, whereas one bid was received open publicly, so it is in the minutes.
Okay,
right?
perfect. Did that clarify, Caroline, or did you have a follow-up?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's one more hand, Alex. And if you could give us just the street where you live, gives us a sense of the area. And if you speak French, just speak French and I'll answer in French.
Main Road, Hudson Heights.
Perfect, thank you.
Just wondering if, I'm not sure whether I'm behind the times, but is there any news on sewage in our area?
How far west do you live? We're laughing because it's an ongoing conversation.
No, I'm part of the, that plan that included Birch Hill and.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Main Road,
very good.
the Crescent.
This is a presentation that we do want to bring to the community. I'm looking at poor Vanessa, who's, how do we say, receiving sort of leftovers from previous terms and administrations. So it is a request. We would like to bring this information to your sector and to the area so you fully understand the numbers and the options that are in front of us. I believe that we have the full picture or close to the full picture. It's not necessarily going to be news or material that everybody's going to love hearing, but I think it's time for us to bring that material to the public. So now it's a question of time. We just need to create the space on our working tables and to schedule that public meeting with your sector and anyone who wants to attend the meeting.
So I'm hearing from the rumor mill that this project isn't going to go ahead, and that basically you're going to ask everyone in the area to get up to spec in terms of their septic systems and that sort of stuff.
So what we generally do when there's an extension to a system, and that's how it's been since the system was put in place, is that anytime there's an extension, it is the sector that is extended that pays for the addition to the infrastructure, and then the cost of operations gets spread to all who have access to that service, whether they're connected or not. So for example, I have access to the system because I live sort of 45 degrees to one of its conduits, but I'm not connected to it. So I pay not only for my own septic system and its emptying, but I also pay for the operation, my portion of the operation. So in your case, Birch Hill, Brisbane, and whatever else we're able to connect, first of all, your entire area has to approve this sectorial bylaw addition, because you usually pay for it through a sector-specific loan, long-term loan, and that gets added on to your tax bills. So your sector, who's involved, would have to accept that. And then what we need to demonstrate to you is that there's a high likelihood that you would find that it is less costly for you to individually invest in the upgrade or replacement of your system rather than the sector going out to a sectoral loan bylaw. That's how it's been explained to me. But again, I think it would be best if you all saw the numbers. We can all see the numbers and understand what I'm saying. And then there's other little elements that we've had to look into, little big elements, which is for those who will be upgrading to individual systems, they now need to be conforming to UV systems because of the type of soil in that area, and those are the requirements at the provincial level. Those UV systems generate filtered water that is safe for the environment, but go into an open ditch or need to be captured in some way. So as you know, Birch Hill, Brisbane area is an area where drainage has been an issue. So we've had to do a whole drainage study to understand and to make provisions for where that water would be carried to. And the added complexity to that area is that the culverts that are at the entrance of every house, most of them have sunk or are too low, some of them are too high, so all of these would need to be adjusted. Now, whose responsibility does that come to? In our bylaws as it stands now, culverts, even though they're on the municipal right-of-way, belong to the owner to upkeep and to replace. So as I'm saying, it's not an easy topic. It's not going to make very happy people. We have to have that difficult conversation, but we needed also to have all the pieces in hand in order to bring you a full picture and not just a partial picture.
Yeah, so in my particular situation, my culvert is the lake. So how does that work out?
Birch Hill has a lake?
Well, no, I'm on Main Road.
Oh,
and
on Main Road.
I back onto the lake.
Yeah.
So basically any effluence that's coming out of my septic system is migrating towards the lake. Is that, an acceptable, situation?
So I'm not a specialist in this field, but I would expect that that's one of the items that the province has been gradually tightening up on, and that they want that water to be captured. But again, we need the specialists at the table, and I'm not the right person to answer that question.
But if I understand, you just did kind of say that your council's position is that you're going to basically try and convince the constituents that it's cheaper for them to maintain their own septic systems.
We are going to present you with the numbers, and then the residents will make their decision.
No, but I mean, from a financial point of view, is it currently accurate that it is favorable for residents to basically maintain their own systems?
That's what I have been told, but again, I haven't analyzed the numbers. I haven't seen the full set of numbers. I've just been thrown some ballpark figures from, say, 4 years ago.
No. I mean, I just trying to figure out. So my next question is the town participating in the EcoPrêt municipal loan program for this type of endeavor?
I didn't hear that sentence. The Eco something program?
EcoPrêt municipal loan program, which is in effect until March 31st, 2027.
I'm not aware of it, but we do have, it is part of our main priorities for 2026. We do have a staff person that is on this file, and that's an interesting point. We'll see if there are subsidies that are involved for this project.
Well, no, the EcoPrêt thing is where the town is basically making money available at a desirable interest rate for long-term projects to citizens.
We haven't taken this on as a type of program, but maybe we can look into it.
Okay, great.
You're welcome.
Am I allowed another question?
If you'd like, there's no questions in the room, and it's only 8:30. So last question, and then there's still 18 people, or let's say 16 people on your side of the virtual world. Please go ahead.
Okay, so my question is about TPAC.
Yep.
As a person who is subject to this regulation, and as someone who has had an unfortunate experience with TPAC before, I'm kind of curious if there's not a way that this could be made more friendly to the actual people that are, basically subject to this. Like my understanding right now is that I produce a set of drawings and then TPAC says no. And, I've done a little bit of research and it seems that other municipalities are a little bit friendlier in the way that they implement this, and that a homeowner can actually work with TPAC in advance of, going through the expense of producing drawings and that sort of stuff, so that there's a higher, probability of their plan being approved before they actually go through the expense of producing the drawings for urban planning.
Well, if tonight is an example of how many files we accept or refuse, there were 4, I believe, that were 4 that were approved and one that was, there were 5 that were approved and 1 that was turned away. It can take, depending on the complexity of your project, can take a couple of times to get to TPAC and through. And do know that it's not the entire territory of Hudson that is covered by the site planning and architectural integration program. It is really the main road where you live, but also some of the newer sectors where development has been approved, and in the older village core. I know it can seem frustrating, but I can tell you from my professional standpoint, having worked with other municipalities, including Rigaud, Saint-Lazare, Dorval, Montreal, I've had, on a personal level, and I don't think I'm a terrible architect, but I've had several projects turned away and that never passed. And I had said to the owner, there's a good chance that the scale of what you're looking to do or the style of architecture you're trying to do will not be accepted in these areas of these towns. So sometimes I think it's just getting to know the look and feel of that area, understanding what has been approved in the past, looking at your neighbors or not, but just getting a feel for that and how it is presented. Generally, projects that are presented with a decent, how do you say, context, where they give photos of their neighbors and what they're looking to insert with or what they're trying to highlight in a neighborhood will gain greater acceptability from the members of TPAC. And the members of TPAC are really composed of an interesting variety of people. There's now 1 architect on there. There's a couple of residents that have newly been added from different sectors of town. There's a real estate agent who, brings some really interesting points of view with regards to the current trends and how often, for example, a property may or may not have been flipped. It can be interesting to look at it from that angle. But there's a really interesting diversity of people around the table that generate a good set of review. And because they see, let's say, 5, 6 files a month, they get a pretty good sense for a sector and what works, what doesn't work. And we have a really unique topography as well that can be quite sort of meandering and hilly in some sectors, which can change the perspective of how your house is seen or approached. So I would say don't give up. Do get to know maybe the elected a little bit better, and they may be able to provide some feedback before, not necessarily on design, that's not our job, but basically to give you a feel for a certain sector. And otherwise, I think you just have to keep trying.
It sounds like you're agreeing with me, and that you would be better served if you had access to TPAC up front rather than after the fact.
No, I'm not agreeing with you on that front. I'm just saying just keep trying and don't give up, and don't see this as an obstacle, but actually as added value to your property.
Okay, and so just out of curiosity, are new builds along Main Road subject to this harmonization law?
All properties that front on Main Road are subject to the SPAPE.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So this completes the second question. No? I can't hear you. An email from Sylvie Ferron, would you remind me? I did see it, but remind me. There was an email by Sylvie Ferron asking us for whether we could consider offering the pool for free. Was it that? Yes. So Sylvie, I have forwarded that question to our administration, and they will take that question into consideration, come back to us with recommendations. So I didn't have their response or their analysis, so I won't be able to provide you with an answer on that. It is interesting. I think it has come to us in the past. And I'm trying to rack my memory as to what was determined, but I think it's important for us that there's a certain sense of, not user pay, but that residents have access to the service. We make it free when there is a heat wave. However, we still also have to be thinking on paying for the costs of operations for it. So anyway, I will have a better answer for you next month, but thank you for reminding me. All right, that was the end of question period number 2, which brings us to number 13, adjournment of the meeting. This resolution is that the meeting be adjourned at 8:40, and it is proposed by Reed Thompson, supported by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. En français, non, je pense pas. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Merci tout le monde. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next month.